right, so we've made it to the end of this class. Things to know. I actually meant to write this on the board. You may want to write it down. Your final is December 21st. This is a Thursday. It will be held from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. It will be much like your midterm, in that you'll have two halves, basically to make the whole engineer. Unless I and my co-instructors have told you otherwise, please plan to be here that day. We have an overflow room, I think in 1,500 each, and we will give you those details over who's going where in a forthcoming announcement. The review for said final will be occurring on Monday, December 18th from 3 p.m. till whenever you don't want it anymore. Right now I'm blocking off about 6 hours. I am blocking till 6 p.m. Still a significant chunk. It's 3 hours, but not so significant. That's the review for this class. So, like last time, if you come with questions, I'll answer them. If you don't come with questions, I won't answer them. I will record the whole thing and make sure it's available online as quickly as possible. There's a few questions.
Where's this review?
So where it's going to be is most likely going to be 2185 LBME. It might be 2203 LBME, but if I don't have to stray too far from my office, that's where it'll be held. Any other questions? Yeah. The time will be from 3 o'clock onward on Monday, December 18th. Now that should all be fine. My only caveat here is I'll be traveling the day before, and just with winter, you don't know. So if I have to push that back, 24 hours, that's the most it'll ever get pushed back. Let's see. But I don't expect that to happen. Your final reports are due tomorrow, December 12th. Make sure those are done. Your peer evaluations are due December 19th. Make sure those are done. Also due December 19th is your team assessment final report. So we're really loading you up here at the end. And your clinician evaluations are due December 15th. Any questions with any of that? Any other? Yes?
So what's the difference between the peer evaluation and the team evaluation?
I don't know. What's the difference between the peer and the team evaluations?
Peer eval is another one online, strictly online. Do that first. And then the team assessment report is a short, informal report that's basically based on the peer eval, but it's one report that talks about your team. And we're talking a shorty here, so a couple pages max. Unless you really want to talk a lot, it's not likely you will. My experience, this goes really quick, and it's remember it's a regular informal report, but it's just describing your team, and all the information you need is online.
All right. Any other questions on that? Yeah. Repeat when everything is due. I'll do it in reverse order. So the thing that's newest, or dewest the newest, is December 12th. Tomorrow, your final report is due. Shortly thereafter, by the end of the week, December 15th, your clinician evaluation is due. These are all on Canvas. If you're running into any problems, please let us know. Due after that, or the next thing after that, on December 18th, yes?
The peer evaluation on Canvas is...
Okay, then go with that. No. Is it due tomorrow or is it due?
As long as you need to do that before you do the team one, so you can turn them in the same time.
Since I said 17th, I said 19th, I'll make sure that we honor 19th, but have it done before the team. Let's see. The review for this class will be held on Monday, December 18th, where we're going to go over everything. I do consider everything we've talked about in this class to be fair game for testing material, so I hope you memorized every single word I ever said. Your team assessment is also due December 19th. Perhaps that was meant to be the 12th, but 19th. Have them done. And then the final for this class is December 21st. 1:30 to 3:30.
Just a quick note, too, for my section of the final, go online under files, I think it's exam stuff, you'll see another sheet up there that basically talks about the kinds of questions that I could ask. And the emphasis for me, on my part, on stuff that I didn't ask on the first exam. So let's say we talked about frogs after the first exam, and I didn't ask you about frogs on the first exam. You'll probably hear about frogs on the second.
Good advice to follow. Yes?
So for all of these, how are we going to be handling a paper copy?
So if a paper copy for any of that is required, you give it to our section leaders.
So like, okay.
Yes?
Barry, you do want a copy of the final report yourself, right?
Do I?
Yes, you do.
Okay, then yes, I do.
So, 2 hard copies.
Okay, 2 hard copies for everyone. Make sure that it's online. This is the most important part. Yes?
Do we need a hard copy of the team assessment?
Do we need a hard copy of the team assessment? Probably not, do we?
Yeah.
My teams know, but that's really my teams.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No, it's
Same with Chris.
just put it online. Any other? We got more questions. Oh, goodness. All right, what other questions do we have? Evaluate the clinician. There should be a spreadsheet there that says what to do. There should just be like little, we just want your feedback. Were they good, bad, how were they?
Can you define where?
Canvas.
Okay.
All of this is on Canvas. All right, I am losing the room. We're going to come back. We're going to answer exactly 2 more questions because you really ought, you should not be worrying about this stuff so much. So 1 more question. It will be just like your previous exam. 1 last question. 1 last burning thing to get through. All right.
When are you posting the lecture videos?
Those will be posted as soon as I am done here today. As soon as I am done here and I've discussed with my colleagues a bit about some other things, I will start uploading all the videos. You will have access to all of them to review. Everything that are in those videos are fair game. And, okay, you're going to sneak 1 more by me. I'm going to get through a rather boring speech, and you're just putting it off. Yes, there was. I can't hear you at all. You are going to get 2 things for your exam. They both matter. Do them both. Oh, that's fine. I graded 1/2. Your co-instructors graded another half. At least 1/2 will be online. We're no longer having this conversation. If you would like to know more, please find me in my office hours. Thank you. All right. So today I wanted to do something rather different. I didn't want to field that many questions. But one of the things I wanted to do for you in your time just in this class and learning stuff about college, this is most of your first years, I basically wanted to give you a series of mostly unedited thoughts. So it's going to be a rather long speech, and you are encouraged to leave if you feel you might get bored. But otherwise, I think you should stick around because I think it'll be worth your time. All right, it goes as follows. And I'm going to be reading this mostly, so I do apologize. I want to make sure I have the right words. So, to have a philosophy of something is to know more of something than you need. Philosophies are the luxury of the unhurried, and they flourish best, I've found, on academic grounds, where there is time to bask in the shade of the ivory tower overlooking the, quote, real world. Of my experiences in this, quote, real world, I have personally found the rarefied airs we breathe here on campus to be of the most stimulating sort, and those approximating it out there are and will continue to be second best and below. Put in a bullet, what you're doing at this university is important. And in an off bullet, I would like to encourage you to take the time to do it right. Jump question. How will you know that you've taken the time to do it right? Splash point, bullet, a philosophy. Segue. Today I'm going to give something of a philosophy of what I believe this class was all about. Pithily, a philosophy of biotechnology. It will, however, consist of a fair amount of rambling on topics of engineering, education, and our biomedical condition. I should note here, and I'll continue to do it, that this is the last day of class, that none of what I'm about to say will be on any test, except when I review some of the bits of our homework problems, which you should already know to expect on a test. And that what follows is a long-form, semi-edited meditation on what I think you ought to have gotten out of this class, which you should not feel compelled to sit through if you do not want to. It's just going to be me reading this speech. And if this mode of academic exercise doesn't work for you at any point, your time is your own, because this is going to be a weird one. We've done a few weird classes. This will be up there. This is not merely a recitation of what we've learned or why, or even much of a comment on why I think we ought to have learned it. The answer to both the general and specific case being, I think it's important for you to do so. But this is all going to get at the layer underneath that. Why is all of this important? Why should you give one single damn about one single thing we went over one single time in this class? To which I offer the rather lengthy and at times circuitous reasons that follow. If you would like to be spared all of that, those are the doors. They are not locked. Indeed, let us start there. Those doors are not locked, and you are always welcome. You are part of a community. And you're part of the community you want to be a part of. And you should want to be a part of this community. In case no one's ever let you in on the secret to this school you applied to, you didn't really apply to get in. You applied to be a part of it. That's not sort of the great lie that's untold, is that you are the University of Michigan, not me. I mean, I am a little bit. Sure, a little bit. But when the history of this class gets written, you're going to be the 98, 99% that comprise it. And surely you've been told to this point, you don't need to be here. You're an adult, you have all the rights I've got. Maybe not to drink, or rent a car, or apply for a mortgage quite yet, but you've got most of them. Foremost among them, whether you realize it or not by this point, is intellectual parity, which is with just about everyone you will ever meet. You are about as smart as me, which is to say pretty darn smart. Many of us will carry around a healthy humility of that fact. Many of us will also maintain a gnawing belief that that simply can't be true, that I'm dumb and one day everyone's going to figure that out, or maybe they already know, or maybe they already know and they're being too polite, or maybe they already know and they've told me and I'm too dumb to know, or maybe it's just dumb to know all that stuff and being afraid, it's just just confirms my own slow sense of self-worth. Do not any of you in any of those camps be afraid. It's all perfectly natural. There is nothing to be ashamed of in knowing that you, those of you sitting in this class, are very smart people. Like I said, about as smart as me. In fact, I'd wager just as smart as me. We've just got our knowledge spread across different disciplines in different proportions, but they all add up to the same overall smarts. We're not all the smartest people we've ever met, and we're certainly not the dumbest either. And woe be unto those for whom such statements are true. Can you imagine being the smartest person you ever knew? If every idea you ever had was the best you ever heard and never went up against anyone who could really think worth a damn. How simple the life and tedious the days. To know how to do everything in your world, those who see only instructions and never creations, where's the meaning in such drudgery? We do not turn to our microwaves manual to soothe the aching heart or to measure the steel beating one. That is to be discovered elsewhere, in spaces beyond instructions, where real problems lay not dormant, but quiet, in depths yet plunged. And I've got to prepare you for all of that. Because if someone hasn't told you what you're getting into, I've got to make sure that I'm the one to prepare you for it. There's so much in this world to know and understand. You've got to figure out a way to synthesize every little bit of information. You've got to make the best damn fixes to these cursed cracks in our world while you're out there fixing them. The University of Michigan has afforded me 107 hours of instruction in this class to do so. Those hours are divided between 1, laboratory sections where you needed to see, engage in, and understand the material and workload to a degree of competence that industry would not worry about putting up with. 2, discussion sessions, ably taught by Doctors Christian Casper and Rob Zalewski on important topics as myriad as paragraph design and sustainable engineering, which might easily, for many of us, fallen comfortably down on our list of things we have not spent time critically thinking about. 3, a design project that was thrown at you like it's going to come at you in a few short years. And 4, lectures taught by a man who, to this point, has never taught a class of this caliber in his life. And you, however, fortunately or unfortunately, has had thrown into yours by this very fine establishment. Also that you might have the necessary skills, critical thoughts, and personal motivation to get from where you are to where you want to be. And it's going to take a lot. But that will serve as good as any other definition of an art. That finite expression of something greater than. All art is essentially trying to say more than it's saying about more than it's saying. The compaction of meaning into a specific form is the job of artisans. The result of their labors, their art. And so what I've tried to put together for you over the course of the course is an artistic expression of what I believe biotechnology entails. Certainly it entails far more, and depending on your specialty, far deeper knowledge into the topics we've covered, and many else besides. But this ought to serve as a generally sound introduction to the field in the form of what has mostly been a mostly one-man, one-act show about biotechnology and its consequences. Believing that it is my job to help you understand this topic, I have tried many ways of carving out some brain space in your head to get you pretty darn smarts considering pretty darn important and hard problems to solve in our field. By this definition of art, I feel comfortable saying that I have maintained the artistic standards and encouraged aesthetic development of you as engineers in this class. If I have but tried to bring some sensibilities to the genre in a way that gets you beyond the average engineer's average introduction to engineering, I'll have done my artistic duty as the performer of this information, tasked with ensuring that you see more of these topics than I hope to have conveyed to you, not merely the content of the material, the rote facts and the relations to math, but instantiated something of the field itself. I've wanted to show how biotechnology comments on its place in the world. What we make of a discipline, what are we to make of a discipline that has monkeys with neural links to robotic arms, at least 5 different ways to sequence your entire genome, an ever-strengthening hand over the mechanisms of bacterial immunity, a 40-year-long inhumane investigation of infection and injustice, a nearly non-existent gender deficit, new ways to control our growth and development that calls us to question what is important in our growth and development. And you can see that all this through a very narrow window in the exact center of your vision. It's why I put together these presentations. To attract those eyes, to tap those brains, to get it thinking on our craft, on our science. Our science, as we've noted, is an odd one. Among the aforementioned facts we must square ourselves to, we must at some point grapple with the factual commercialization of biology that we are all getting ourselves into. It's surreal terrain. In less than half a decade, you will be aiding in the design of drugs, the creation of regulatory compliance systems, the beginning of your first years of medical school, treating your first patients in the flesh. And that's all objectively weird when you think about it. The invisible hands of our markets are guiding us over a particular swath of the biomedical landscape. Perhaps it will be instructive to review some of the sites we've seen along our stroll amongst this landscape. That is to say, what we've learned during this education. The first emphasis I wanted to place on this class is us getting to know one another. From the stats that would make the bulk of our previous homework, to all the thousands of days we spent in preparation for this class, and which is going to serve as the primary ranking system for something to follow, I wanted to make sure you understood the cost and the value of your education. Every now and then, I wanted to get you to read a quote from someone smart you might not otherwise hear from in a biotechnology course, even from Mad Men. I wanted you to know some of the biggest names in this field, some reputable law firms to use in the future, and some professional organizations that I'd like to see you leading in the not-too-distant future. I also wanted to call upon your higher faculties to address uniquely biomedical situations. Ethical thinking played a somewhat outsized role in this class, but I think it's to no one's detriment. I wanted each time we met to be an opportunity for us to create something new, and to stress to you the importance of what it is you're getting yourself into. We were initially blown away by what previous students in this class were able to put together, but we have assembled something about as impressive, if not more so, if I do say. Our training began with humble axiomatic biology, the first principles of biotechnology. In becoming acquainted with the environment, we saw the scales at which life lives and the boundaries on which it relies. We met Gila a time or two, and we learned about some of the things that biomedical engineers do. One day, mitochondria went from being the powerhouse of the cell to the quasi-organelle that creates adenosine triphosphate via oxidative phosphorylation. I'm told this can be a shocking day, and I'm glad we were able to get through it together. We saw the first cells. We saw the first DNA. We saw the numbers of people affected by biotechnology. We saw the people themselves. We put together teams. We met clinicians. We pondered the uniqueness of ourselves and others time and again. We got down pat the basic structure of the basic form of genetic material. And we unfortunately are now a little too familiar with the geometry of helices. We learned about the many ways DNA is compressed and the one way that it is synthesized. We considered the molecular processes involved in DNA replication, and we considered these two naked folks for quite some time. We began to appreciate the size, scope, and scale of the biology we were talking about. We began to make comparisons and analogously expand upon our reasons. Life's basic cycles were explored, and its errors were considered carefully. We discovered many such errors, including the two Tay-Sachs down here. We went through a few examples of disorders, some of which lie at the hearts of our projects in this class. We understood the difference between genotypes and phenotypes. We learned a bunch of nonsense about mutations. We were told to find typos and design diagnostic tests. We learned to be sensitive. We learned to be specific. We learned how to start a chain reaction and to predict what it leads to. We learned the basics of the basics. And we took a peek at what some of the complexities that lie behind it. I really do hope you learned how Sanger sequencing works. It is really important from a conceptual viewpoint, as most technologies are just a variation on its theme. We even did that pop beads experiment as a hands-on demo because I thought it was important. As important are the effects of next-generation sequencing and what it means to have a home and a moment to think on it. But with one of those moments to ponder, please use it to rethink your use of JupiterScientific.org. Don't be afraid to dare too great, or to delve too deep into the details, as there are a great many details. I hope you did not mind my solicitation of what it was you wanted out of this class, and I hope my presentation of it was mostly to your liking. There is something this side of fitting irony that we have learned to express ourselves in lockstep with learning how cells express themselves. The whole process of it has a bit of magic to it. Even though we know we learned a lot from experiments that were basically this hodgepodge together. We can make mice grow green if we want. We can detect and make just about any molecule if we exploit the immune system of other organisms. We can see genes being expressed. We can see healthcare systems in action. Our work has taken us down some winding paths, such as our estimation of life's monetary worth, and the interrelated and jumbled design processes, and how medical devices actually get made and brought to market. You have this all memorized, I assume. In weighing the balances of costs and benefit, we considered gambles we could take and the trades we could make. Along our stroll in the biomedical landscape, we encountered a paradox or two that ought to make our traveler's eyes weary, leery, and squinting skeptically at some of our better ideas. We saw that some of our better ideas have been codified in documents long ago. We also saw that some of our not better ideas have also been codified. How we deal with this speaks to the material of our character. Of those good ideas we've had, we found that they must satisfy 5 important conditions for patentable consideration. I think some of the better ideas we've had, have made this class better, including much of the feedback you provided. Thank you very much for that, and I should take this moment right now to recognize you also have a bit of feedback you can provide me. There's teaching evaluations I think are due soon. They help. They'll help make me a better instructor, so please do that, if you wouldn't mind. Off that high horse onto this one. I think we were even able to make it through the handwritten statistics parts of the class, too. I tried at times to make the data relevant as possible as our investigation into a per-row heart rate difference, seen here as something of a cross between a handwritten receipt and modern art. We explored the details of good statistical tools. We indulged in a few extra along the way. We learned how to test a test and how to describe it well. From rigorous definition, it's important to develop a healthy intuition with real-world examples plucked randomly for mutual exploration. We even got to thinking about how our tests would look. This was probably new for us all. In fact, we got to try in a few new things along the way. And we got to see the unique side of humanity thereby. It's situated us. It has fragmented us. And it has got us asking, what the what? Who even am I? How is my broken DNA joined back together? How is it repaired with changes? Must Romulus kill Remus for Rome to flourish? Is CRISPR-Cas9 really as simple as all that? It is kind of cool to look at in action, though. Almost as cool as my overextended use of metaphors on the founding of an empire to explain contemporary descriptions of molecular editing systems, currently awaiting arbitration by as high a court as the parties can convince themselves to see. We learned the names behind the big stories. We paid them our respects here along our biomedical or biotechnological journeys. We may not see them again. But that's okay. We're learning to keep everything in perspective. Within the path of that perspective on a great many topics as important and as fleeting as the origins of life, and as varied as the cells that follow, we met the newly saved and the old standards. We saw how things can get out of control, and we learned the basics of how we might control them ourselves. We learned history while we learned method. Example and definition were coupled. You are invited to see the intellectual edges of some part of our field. I hope some of you took me up on that offer. At the very least, I hope you do yourself the favor at some point in your academic career of sitting in on a PhD defense, perhaps even your own. We ruminated on society's branding of some of our work as playing at God. We were baffled and bamboozled by illusions, even as it was brought to the center of our attention that we have a very narrow center. Your instructor indulged himself with quotes every now and then, and never made it quite clear what was supposed to be written down and what could just merely be listened to. I notice there are no furious notes being taken today. And I tried to continually make the point that that is not the point. That some things ought to be known, or at the very least said. How often those things are written into history is ultimately on us. And for the most part, I think we get it. Or wait, no. I tried a little something different by introducing the mathematical modeling of biological scenarios. And I think for the most part we get it, even if we don't get it. I think there's plenty more that we similarly get, even if we don't. If we don't get it now, maybe at least we get it later. We touched on some hot topics, and we unflinchingly asked hard questions. We've looked at hard numbers facing us and powerful people redefining us. We've gotten answers from genuine stakeholders, and we hope that we get the answers right from the right questions. And we've got to be willing to listen to them, because they all say something important about something important. With that, I hope you are willing to listen to me for another 20-ish so or minutes, as each and every one of you were important to what this class was, and I think as your instructor, I ought to acknowledge that. What follows is an individual thought for each and every one of you. You are my first students, and I hope I have taught you well. I have listed you all in the order from the date of your enrollment. Number 1, Justin Gifford. Where's Justin? The first to sign up for this class, this speaks to a certain spark I like to see in a person. May you continue to charge boldly into the unknown with a great deal of forethought. Number 2, Christian. The first to get a 100% on a homework I assigned, as the most of the rest of us can attest, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Congrats. Number 3, Matt. I have you quoted as saying, personality and character are the main ways to characterize who a person is. From the glimpses of each I've gotten from you in this class, you have sufficient amounts of both, and I hope you are able to put them to good use. 4, Samuel. I can always count on you to say something in class. Continue to have smart things to say. 5, Shreeman. Given that you came into this class with the most bones broken, somewhere in the middle of double digits, I will count it among my accomplishments to say that barring last-minute accidents to the contrary, we have safely made it through this class with no injuries. 6, Brianna. Or, as your name tag once had it, Honorable Giese? I don't know how to say your last name, as it turns out. Giese.
Yeah.
Honorable Giese. You have demonstrated solid judgment in both the engineering, and humanity spheres of this class. May it only be better. 7, Annie. Where are you, Annie? I'll find you. There you are. Your explanation of cystic fibrosis and its effect on the world ranks among the top I've ever personally encountered. You should take pride in that and continue to hone your ability to carve out descriptions of our biomedical problems. 8, Marissa. There we go. I will remember you for the ease with which you called to mind particulars of Roman history far in excess of what I might expect of the typical engineer. May you always far exceed the typical engineer. 9, Tyler. You have given voice to a deeply held belief of mine, quote, I do not believe these complaints regarding the modification of biology should limit the advances of biomedical sciences because public opinion is so fickle. I might more charitably say public opinion is flexible, but it largely describes the same thing, that our society's perceptions of the terrain we tread are awash in naivete, and we must be bellwethers of the truths we discover. May you be such. 10, Andrew. You will be remembered by me, and likely by Easton, as being the fellow who swooped in for those points in helping with our Dying with Dignity laws discussion. I like your gumption, and I hope you keep it with you. 11, Nikhil. You will forever live on in my heart as the one named man. The one and only Nikhil. 12, Natasha. You had an excellent eye for the contents of this class, asking questions with acuity and answering them with clarity. Keep it up. 13, Jack. I hope I have helped you learn how to conceptualize a statistical problem and how to avoid biasing ourselves prior to and following from our analysis of data. As I have said to you previously, I hope, be confident in your methods and you can be confident in your results. Thaddeus. 14. I'm sorry I did not know more of some of the surgical details of some of the topics we included in this class. I hope it does not dissuade you from pursuing your interest in being a neurosurgeon. 15. Robert. I listen exclusively. Where are you? I listen exclusively for the clarinet when I watch Michigan games because of it. Beyond your instrumental status in the marching band, you have served this class well with your insights and questions. May they serve you just as well. 16. Alec Sosha. A man after my own heart in his preference for pens over pencils. May you be ever more certain of the answers you write them in. 17. Christina Dons. I have heard many explanations of the diagnosis and treatment of sepsis in my day, and your presentation of the subject in the final oral report ranks among the best. Truly top-notch nutshelling of difficult subject matters. 18. Shreya. I remember your justification for using a differential benefit of 1 QALY per year as being rather succinctly put as, quote, you're either around or you basically die. I have heard no truer description of life than that. 19. Lakita. I believe you may have been the first student to visit me during office hours. Thank you for that. You are welcome to visit any time in the future while on your path through the biomedical landscape. You also gave rise to my second favorite bullet point of this semester, which reads, quote, is breeding dogs playing God? Which is precisely the sort of question I want to get to the bottom of in this class. 20. Nighty. You've got a mind going a mile a minute on a dozen different topics that are all pretty cool. I hope you continue to lend your opinion to our bioethics discussion group and that you win that upcoming video contest. If you need us to spam anything, click any buttons, please do not hesitate to call upon your Engineering 100 Section 500 brothers and sisters. 21. Brief. Palette. Thank you for coming. There you are. Thank you for coming to the very first bioethics discussion. You got to see what it was before it was anything at all. I hope you continue to cultivate your curiosity. 22. Emily. Thank you for your unwavering participation in this class. You have lent a strong voice to many of our shared opinions, and I, for one, am glad that you shared it. 23. Ashley. You were quite spirited in just about every aspect of this class. From the project to the test to the discussions in class, you had an energy that I urge you to use for the good of us all and our biomedical condition. 24. Yasmin. Hopefully by this point you have had sushi. If not, might I recommend it in celebration of your excellent final oral report, or potentially, what's it? Yeah. Or after soundly handling our upcoming final exam. 25. Anna Carr. You've demonstrated great abilities in this class, from spotting errors to homework to once describing our work here as, quote, an application of a problem-solving collaborative mindset to help the human race. May you continue to solve problems with those around you for the benefit of all. 26. Giselle. You've put well the reason we all should be here. Quote, wanting a direct impact on people's lives and combining the fields of math and science to do so. Indeed, engineering, in one of its purer senses, is just such a distillation. May you make ever greater impacts on those around you. 27. Christina. I will remember you for the answer to the ethical use of unethically acquired data and for your notion on it being accompanied by a message of warning. You correctly noted that we cannot undo our experiments, but we can learn from them. 28. Jenna. You had a comment on your latest homework that teachers like me live for. You said, quote, thank you for making me question my existence. Which is just about the highest compliment you can give for a class like this. This is the sort of thing I want to be able to ensure is present in engineering classes that doesn't quite have an ABET guideline associated with it. This class is but a brief exploration of who we are, biomedically speaking. If some of our sites have us questioning our standings in the world, all the better. 29. Easton. You've demonstrated a keen and unique sense of many... Easton. 29. You have demonstrated a keen and unique sense of many of the issues we deal with biomedically, perhaps even slide construction. I suspect your personal experience and motivations have lined you up for a great career in biomedical engineering. I hope you enjoy the trajectory. 30. Jaleel. J. I am sorry to hear that you feel biology is not for you now. I hope I can persuade you here by saying my telling of it is but one of many ways. And even if you don't like my way of doing it, may your continued investigations of the subject matter lead you to yours. I wish you luck on the way. 31. Rohit. You once expertly described the mathematical reasoning behind vaccination within minutes of learning the material. Such quick and thorough understanding of topics will serve you well in life. I also wish you well in your desire to become, quote, a doctor with a strong intent in making devices that help people. You certainly have the skills to do so. 32. Amalia. You had a keen thought on the matter of playing God, putting it thusly, quote, why should we not cure if we can cure or create what we can create? Such practicality will always serve an engineer. Your additional caveat of certain ethics applying will serve you even better. 33. Eliana. Ellie. Aha. You had a great many questions in this class, and I hope I was able to provide at least okay answers to them all. May you continue to ask the right ones. 34, Abby Reed. You thus far have the distinction of having created my favorite title for an essay in one of my classes with, quote, legal rights to biological information, the beauty of capitalism, and the trouble it gets us into. I didn't know I asked that question. 35, Ryan Scott. In what has quickly become something of a weekly mantra of mine, you once said that biomedical engineers should, quote, do something that betters mankind. Do something that betters mankind. I can think of no better wisdom to impart than just that. Do something that betters mankind. 36, Jason. You once described yourself as, quote, the exact combination of the exact cells that I am right now. And that by said definition of biological identity, it would be impossible to describe someone given the zettabytes of information that are changing all the time. So far as I am glad to say that we had you and your millions of variations in this class. May you in myriad form enrich others. 37, Raina. I hope your aunt's wedding goes well. And I hope you are able to go on another one of those Disney half marathons during your college career. 38, Isaac. You've been wicked smart in this class in just about all the ways I've asked you to be. I can see why they let you on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? May you one day get what you want. They actually don't have the video of this anywhere online.
They took it down.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky. Otherwise, we'd be watching it right now. 39. Anna Callis. I hope you hung up that poster of the pale blue dot and that it gives you sufficient perspectives on the world, wherever you may sit upon it. 40. Nathan. There we go. I'm sorry that I presumed all here want to pursue biomedical engineering. However, I hope I have made as convincing a case as I can that you should pursue a career in biomedical engineering. Look at all the cool stuff we get to do. You don't get to talk about puberty suppression for the treatment of gender dysphoria in the blimp class. We're doing some pretty cool things here in biomedical engineering, and I think it'd be pretty cool if you considered a career in it. All the same, I wish you luck in whatever path you take on this campus to get to a better life, hopefully as an engineer. 41, Isabel. You and your team were able to put together a fantastic presentation in 48 hours. I liked that you had confidence to pursue a last-minute change given by the last-minute constraints of your physician and the pesky anatomy of the whole thing. Given that it was you with whom I mostly interacted with in the run-up to that presentation, I suspect you had a leading role in the end product. Its quality speaks to some measure of your leadership. Yoon Jung, Sherry, number 42. I found most of your written answers absolutely fascinating. For example, you once said of the boundaries biomedical engineers should respect that, quote, nothing should go so beyond the way of nature that it goes against it, which is just downright poetic. 43, Ryan Merselbaum. You had a fascinating expansion of the ship of Theseus metaphor based on a thought experiment challenging the definition of continuity that I hope you explore more thoroughly, if not here, then elsewhere. Take a creative writing class or something and get it in print. 44, Aniga. Aniga?
Yes.
Aniga.
Yes.
44, Aniga. You've described your reason for taking this class as, quote, something that would combine what you love, biology, with something that runs the world, technology. May you have learned a bit of what you love and how to use it to run the world. 45, Truman. I will remember you for your handle of the orders of magnitude. May your grasp be yet refined. Anita, 46. I take it as something of a compliment that on the very first day of class you were about as far back as could be, here you are, right in the front. Means you couldn't have been too put off by the material or my presentation of it. Of course, you almost didn't sit here today, in which case that wouldn't have worked at all. 47, Sarah. Somewhere. Sarah. 47, Sarah. I feel that engineers are afforded a matter-of-factness missing from all other realms of life. For doctors, every patient is different. For scientists, every experiment unique. Engineers, operating with approximations and fudge factors, seem the most comfortable saying, yeah, that's the way it is, with no hint of abdication. Sarah, you once said, quote, performing unethical things should never happen, but to ignore any information from them that could potentially save lives would be stupid and counterproductive. Most in the humanities will not tell it to you quite that straight. May you continue on your engineering career with an ever-honing bluntness. 48, Alec Sunshine. Your work in this class has been exemplary. May you continue to feel, quote, that you are doing, or that doing this will allow you to help people each and every day. In other words, may new days make your sun shine anew. Bit of a tongue twister there. 49, Jesse. One thing I attempted to emphasize in this class was the role of the patient in our whole engineering process. You said this more concisely and yet perhaps more broadly of the matter. Quote, yes, there are boundaries we should respect. We should respect the patient's medical wishes. Such a crystalline formulation will always help you find clarity in biomedical engineering. 50, Daphne. I got it. As I did with Anita, I take it as something of a compliment that you have sat here, approximately front and approximately center, for much of this course's duration. Hopefully it has earned your attention to it. May it aid you onward. 51, Maddie. Your questions during office hours have been some of the most illuminating for me pedagogically. That is to say, you have helped me, I hope, teach better in the future. On behalf of future students who understand the material just a bit better, and who owe you a debt of gratitude they do not yet know, thank you for your participation in this class. 52, Brett. I know. I didn't know there was going to be a category in my brain for favorite bullet points. But you have provided this year's best with, quote, assisted suicide designer babies. There is something uniquely magical to our biomedical enterprise when such a bullet point can be written. May you continue to find that magic in your further study of the field. 53, Azam. Perhaps I best got to know you on the walk from the room we both thought we were supposed to be in to the room we were actually supposed to be in, where, despite being in the wrong room, you came across as a smart cookie. People don't just tend to come across that way, so keep coming across as a smart cookie. 54, Samantha. Believe it or not, I have always meant to ask you about your pet tortoise, Sheldon. But there's never the right segue offered in this class. Here's the mathematics describing a dubious medical trial, tense with racial injustice and honest-to-goodness crimes against humanity. How is your tortoise Sheldon? There's just never a time. But now that there is, how is your tortoise?
Good.
All right. Got the answer I was looking for. 55, Sandra. You have at times demonstrated an excellent moral character. If even half of us had that, we'd have better. 56, Stephen. You have said of your interest in biomedical engineering that you wish to, quote, improve the well-being of human beings. I think that is just about as laudable a goal as any person can have. And I hope you continue to do so from here on. 57, Alan. The first student to contact me as an instructor of this institution, doing so even before the class began. May you forge ahead with such fortitude in all of life's endeavors. 58, Morgan. Upon this class's consideration of using a controversial medical treatment, you said that quote, intrinsic distress has to be compared to extrinsic distress of said treatment. Knowing that you must balance factors is the first critical step in optimizing those factors as an engineer. 59, Mabel. You came to review sessions with questions to ask and answers to pursue. May you keep at that doggedness and answer a great many questions with it. 60, Danica. Thank you for your participation in both this class and in our bioethics discussions. You have made substantial contributions here and elsewhere. May you continue to contribute substantially. 61, Kevin. Sneaking by. You were the first. This is now actually changed given the new homework. So you were the first, and as of yesterday, the only student of mine to get over 100% on an assignment. Just as we commended Christian earlier for being the first to 100 for its difficulty, here I commend your skills for being the first to surpass it. Keep doing what you're doing. 62, Michael. Among my favorite phrases describing our biomedical condition in this class comes from your most recently graded homework, in which you said that, quote, the combination of all our maybe not perfectly unique characteristics make us who we are. I suspect this seed of truth has to be growing in a few more minds if we are ever to have any hope of world peace. 63, Gregory. Great. You have had many responses in this class, and perhaps one of my... I actually meant to put this up here, decided against it. You had my favorite response of all. To having been explained the Tin Man's origin, you responded thusly, quote, what the fuck? Which I think is something of a contemporary eureka moment. You got something in that moment that I hope stays with you. And I hope you get many moments from more things. I hope you get many more things from many more moments just like that. 64, Abby McKay. You had one of my favorite expressions of the intrinsic human goodness of our topics here. When asked about the conditions that ought to govern the behavior of biomedical engineers, you responded, quote, as long as biomedical engineers are working towards improving quality of life for all, then there should be no boundaries, and held that we should, quote, aim to help all regardless of who they are. The world will be objectively better with more engineers of your persuasion. 65, Ryan Castellano. You provided me with one of my favorite justifications for the mandated use of vaccinations. Quote, yep, herd immunity for the win. 66, Luca. Thank you for your supplemental material. Somewhere around here. There you are. For your supplemental material for this class on the topics of the angle of our vision and the design of our prostheses. I am glad to see that you pursue the material beyond the confines of the class. May you do so in others. 67, Kaylee. I'm glad that your 2 previous heart surgeries have enabled you to sit through this class, and I hope that the one you have next year goes well, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn if I say I'm speaking for all of us here in wishing you the best and urging that your ticker keep ticking. 68, Aparna. Your motivation for pursuing biomedical engineering was more succinctly and thus better than my own. I, quote, love the human aspect of engineering. While I love the innovation of engineering in general, biomedical engineering gives me insight into a person's life and allows me to have a direct impact on their stories. May you go on to impact many stories hence, telling a few of your own. 69, Megan. You've described the field of biomedical engineering as, quote, having the potential to make a great positive impact in people's lives, and, more to the point, you want to do that. I hope this class has helped you expand your realms of potentiality, and that you continue to wish to make a great positive impact on a great many others. 70, Erica. you have, to this point in my life, the best notes I have ever seen taken for a class. May your concise and artistic interpretation of the information before you yield ever more creative fruit. 71. Hamza. Perhaps the youngest in our class, but no less wizened. May you continue to stride in your education here. 72. Julian. A late great addition to this class. Though I know you will likely be going on to pursue an aerospace or nuclear engineering-based program, I hope your brief foray into the biomedical scene has given you an appreciation of what it is we're up against on this side of the fence. May you ever keep the interests of human beings first and foremost in your mind in whatever you engineer. Okay. That's all of you. So to you, that one or two or three of you sitting in the audience thinking, well, maybe I want to do some of this stuff for real. How do I get there? May I, a fellow traveler across this landscape, tend a piece of advice. The roads ahead are treacherous. It'll be hard to get where you're going. And if the map I've offered is complicated, it's because the, quote, real world it represents is even more so. I can only mark off so much territory for us to look at and to appreciate. I hope I've chosen some good images to show you of the world you've got to appreciate as a biomedical engineer. Specifically, and perhaps more so to those who might go into professions which call upon such knowledge, designing functioning health cares, creating cancer therapeutics that will save the lives of husbands and wives, children and parents, and only now, just now, do I, as your intellectual peer, think you are in any way qualified to do that. You have convinced me, and I am sure you will go on to convince others. For those of you that do not wish to pursue work in this field, I wish you the best in whatever it is you may find yourself. Regardless of your inclination towards this material, you have, throughout some portion of this entire class, already known everything I was trying to teach you. So much so that you may have been bored to tears, you wept in your dreams. Present speech included. This touches upon my earlier point. The world you already know is boring. And the world ahead of you isn't that. Take your time here at the university to develop a philosophy of your own, learn what you like, study what you need, become what you want. I have tried, in my own ways, to convince you that there's so much to how this big, wide world works that you in 100 million tries couldn't figure it all out. But for the first pass at it, you ought to have learned a few things. Chief among them, though rarely said aloud, is that deep down, in a very real place in your instructor's heart, he wants you all to succeed in a meaningful way, in a meaningful world. That'll be enough. With that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to dismiss this class one final time. I hope you all do well with your fast approaching exams and on your ever to the horizon journeys. I've done what I can for you here and trust that you can do more. Good luck. And questions, comments, concerns, please do let me know. And another kind of lame thing, we got 15-ish minutes left. I've got this little book. If you want to put your name in it, that'd be kind of cool for me personally. But yeah, just come up if you want. Otherwise, I'll take your homework. If you don't have your homework, give it to me at some other point, and I'll see you at the final.
Can I just sign anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, maybe don't write all over the world.